This is Dale Matthews with BadCounty.com. And joining me is Mike Jones, also with BadCounty.com. Hello, Mike from BadCounty.com.
Hello. Howdy.
That's the voice that I use on the radio ads. Radio ads, radio ads. So, see the things here behind me?
Yes. What are those things behind you, Dale?
It says on air, Mike.
Oh, yes, that's good. I appreciate you telling me that because I couldn't read that myself. It's the other one that I'm actually having more trouble reading.
Oh, okay. This one says, how the county government skims 10% off.
Well, and you know what? I mean, people are going, what in the heck is wrong with that Mike Jones guy? Because I can read that perfectly fine. Well, you have the benefit of getting the unadulterated high-quality signal from Dale's, because it is from Dale's computer that this all goes to YouTube.
Of course.
And then you know, so I'm getting a lesser quality picture of Dale now than you are. Aren't I lucky?
Well, part of the reason it's coming from our editing studio is that I've got a much faster internet connection here than Mike does.
That is precisely it.
He lives in the county, I live in the city. And yes. So Mike was 10% off today. No, wait. He
yes.
was on air today.
I'm 10% off every day.
Right.
Yes.
So he was on air today. He was in Rotary Club Radio. Wow, cool, Mike.
Yep. Yeah, it went very, very quickly. Myself, Bill Hunker, and Joseph Rice went in there and to make the case for not voting for the levy yet again. And it was kind of fun. You know what? You know, it's funny. You go in there, and unless you go in with a list, and you take your pen and you go, I am going to check off this list one by one and make sure that I hit all of these items, you're not going to do it. So I had a few things that I had every intention of saying that I never ended up saying because, you know, you get carried off with the direction of conversation, and but I think it was pretty good. It laid a pretty good foundation for people that don't know. It's going to be redundant for a lot of people that listen or watch this show, because you've heard all this before. We have done this stuff to death, and if you're hearing it and you think that it's been done to death, well, that's good. That means you know the facts.
Well, one of the reasons that we're doing this is I said to Mike, you know, when the Pro-Levy people were on Rotary Radio, and Marty Sether jumped in and said, it's just like ISIS, you know, it's like Ebola is coming across the border. This is Ebola coming across the border, in case you didn't know.
Yes.
So when Mike and the others went on KAJO this morning, I said, Mike, why don't we go ahead and we'll take the clips from that, just like we did last time, and we will talk about the pluses and minuses of how and what you said, and that way we will we're not going to destroy anybody, just like we didn't last time.
Right,
but it's more
and
fair.
Then right after we do that, we're going to put up a couple of Dale's videos, and then we'll talk about the pluses and minuses of those.
I am more than happy to do so. As a matter of fact, in the latest one, and we played the audio from it, Keith Eck said, well, if you're going to try to be real clever, I said, no danger of that, sir. Well, I'm doing it to myself, and that's what he took offense at. Why, you're being flippant. No, I'm not.
You know what? I'm not even. I'm not sure that he heard you correctly, because I think that he just thought you were being a smart A or something.
Smart A? Well,
smart A. Well,
yes, thank you very much, Mike.
I'm trying to censor myself. You know, we don't want the FCC coming after us.
Yes, right, for the internet. That's right. Or, well, now NSA.
Well,
right?
Listen, it's not too much of a stretch now, because I think the FCC is going to be the governing body that regulates the internet.
How did they do that for international communications? International.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Listen,
so
it's
before
bad.
we get too far away, so that
Yes.
the show doesn't last 3 hours,
Oh, yeah.
Mike
And
is now
good.
going to start playing selected excerpts. I haven't heard any of this. I stayed
Yes.
purposely at it so I would be properly astounded.
Yes.
That's Mike making sense.
I'm not sure that's going to happen, but we'll see about that. And let's start with the opening, and this is Bill Hunker, and basically the host asked Bill, like, what are you doing here? Essentially. So here we go. Whoops. Yes, that's not going to work.
Happens every time.
Yes. All right, here we go. Here we really go.
I think the very first thing we'd like to say is that we are not against public safety, and we're certainly not even against levies when they're rightly structured. And so it isn't about public safety or not wanting public safety and to have the county be safe. But we took a hard look at the actual referendum and feel that the referendum isn't the right one. It isn't structured correctly for what the real needs are of the county. And so what we say quickly is it's not the right levy at the right time. And but want to make it real clear that we're not against public safety at all.
So I want to make it real clear that I'm not against public safety. I personally am against public safety. That was just Bill speaking for himself there.
Yes, it was Dennis Weber, the famous Dennis Weber, who said that the people who oppose the from Parkway Christian Center, that people who oppose this levy are in favor of chaos.
Yeah, well, and of course, Bill's saying, "Oh, we're not against the levy." I will say, I was joking before about the other thing. I am for public safety, just so you know. But I'm not for the levy, and I'm not for a levy per se. I mean, you're going to have to show me something that really spins my top before I'm going to go jump on that bandwagon. Anyway.
That's a mixed metaphor, but okay.
Right. Yes, and we shan't mix those, shall we? Okay, here's the next one.
If we want to spend money wisely, line it out. There is $1.40 in this levy, and there is absolutely zero line item budget. We have been told what it may go for, but it's not been defined. We traveled up to Lane County, and they did a jail levy up there at 55 cents per thousand assessed value. They broke that down to the penny. And that money went specifically into a fund. No money was taken off of it, no 10% skim or anything else. And the people knew exactly where they were voting for and where their money was going. It has been consistently asked, where is the $1.40 going? And no one's told us. No one can break it down. And I think if you look at the greater problems within our state and our nation, if we had more transparency, if we had more understanding how the money is going to spend, how it's going to be budgeted, it would work. And if I look at the verbiage in the levy and what they are saying it's going to go for, we ran a rough budget. And there's no way it works. It just doesn't work to fund everything they're claiming it's going to fund.
Right.
Well, do you remember in the last levy, we showed you the videotape of the commissioner saying, well, we need to keep this purposely vague. We need to keep this purposely vague?
Right, and that's what you're talking about here. And the transparency thing, I was feeling like jumping in. Doesn't this sound familiar? When Joseph was talking about transparency, and if we had a greater transparency, maybe you'd have a greater trust that they were actually going to do what they said they were going to do. But when they don't give you any type of specificity as to how the money is going to be spent, that means they want a little bit more freedom in how to spend that money.
Absolutely. Yeah, and remember
yes.
when he said in this clip that at that other county they didn't skim off 10%? What do you mean
Right.
they don't skim off 10%? Didn't Cheryl
Yes, I thought-
tell us that that's required by law, that they have to
Yes.
skim off 10%?
Yes, that's what she said. And of course, we know that now to be not true because there are a number of counties within the state that don't have an ISF. And the ISF is just so the Board of Commissioners has some extra money to play with. So anyway, here's the next one, and it's funny how Joseph catches Marty on something, or Marty stepped into something here, and I thought it was a pretty good catch by Joseph here.
Well, reading the voter's pamphlet, it doesn't specify dollar amounts, but it mentions provide funding for 16 sheriff's deputies, including patrol cars, 911 dispatch.
Okay, let me stop you there.
Okay.
How much is that? How much is the 16 deputies? How much are the 16 patrol cars?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many patrol cars? Are we talking, okay, 16 deputies? Is that one patrol car per deputy? And what's the cost of that car?
And are those new hires, or is that including the people that are already there? Are they hiring 12 new and keeping the 4 old, or are they hiring 16 more in addition to the 4? We don't know that either.
And do we really need all of those cars? It's a tremendous expense, all those cars and the equipment that goes in them.
You're looking at roughly $80,000 to $100,000 per car, and if they're using the 50 to 55,000 mile retirement that the city's using, we're looking at replacing those cars every 2 years. So what's the cost? How many cars?
Well, that's a question I think Sheriff Daniel would have to answer.
He's been asked that, and there's been no answer. That's the problem about the transparency. We are not being told how many, and is it being purchased right out of the gate, or is that phased in over the 5 years of the levy? Where's the budget on the cars?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the funny thing is, Marty, he just got off of doing this other show where they're all emotion all the time, and I don't think he expected this level of analysis. All of a sudden, we're asking all of these questions, all of these things that have been considered by the group here, and by the larger group of people that are not for the levy now. There's a greater level of analysis that is happening with this levy. That's what is different about this levy than other levies which have preceded it.
Well, they have been saying this is completely different than any other levy.
Yes.
Yeah, it sure is, because
right.
I've never seen anything like this, Mike. They have entirely conceded the beachhead, which has to do with any kind of facts or figures.
Yes.
They have backed up. Even the sheriff did this. I like the sheriff, but even well, they're not going to talk facts and figures. No wonder they can't talk facts and figures. And the things that they've said are so weak. It's like, wait a minute, slash. Oh, well, never mind that. Or it's not working for them.
The funny thing is Marty thought he was going to come in here and hit us with a bayonet a couple of times, and we were going to fall over. And what he got was 3 sets of brass knuckles. It was it was I mean, we were hitting him from all sides of things that we had considered about that exact thing, which is they haven't done any analysis on the other side. The other side is purely, what are you going to do if I'm not here to take the drunk off the road that's going to kill your family? I mean, that's kind of the difference between the two sides.
And before you think that we're making this up, listen, we have been involved in talking with them and going to their meetings and having the sheriff and the police chief on our show and trying to grab anything out of them that we can. They're catching on the fact that we're finding out what they have and don't have, and a lot of them refuse to talk to us now.
Well,
they don't have the facts and figures on their side, and it's a heck of a note that they would be saying, well, we want this money, but we're not going to be able to tell you. We're not going to be able to tell you what it's really going to go for.
Right.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but we can tell you that the criminals and the crime wave is like ISIS. That's what we can do. We can do that.
That's what they got going for them. Go ahead, Mike.
And it continues.
When you look at the cars, where did those go? They were sitting in reserve. the commissioners have sold them. So why don't we have the cars that were already there and paid for? And where's the maintenance on them? I mean, we seem to continuously hurt ourselves. I understand we're going to have this flux up and down in our economy, up and down in funding, but when you have resources that are fully paid for, they're there, keep them in storage so when you're funded again, you can bring them back into use.
Right, and motor pool vehicles are typically maintained at a much higher level than a car that you would drive every day to go to work and back. They're making sure they get their oil changed properly. The suspension is being serviced. Those are well maintained vehicles, and the idea that somehow at 90,000 miles it's a piece of junk, I have a hard time swallowing that.
You see, this is a combination of the commissioners and the sheriff's office and these folks who are proposing this. And if you were completely satisfied with the way the commissioners handle your money, you should vote for this. And if you have any questions about how they're handling your money, you haven't been watching the show.
Right. And, well, you know, something interesting that occurred to me after hearing this is that it may well be that they are saying, hey, we're going to replace all these cars, but, you know, all of these cars are basically about $100,000 a piece after you get done loading it with all of the stuff that you're going to put in it. So if after this passes, they only buy 8 cars instead of 16, what are they going to do with the other $800,000? You know, that could easily go into PERS or to, you know, some other expense that they want to spend it on. The thing is that they don't. None of this stuff is lined out, and this this citizens committee that they're going to, you know, allegedly have to advise how the money should be spent. Those people are going to advise what they're told to advise. I'm pretty confident of that.
Well, you've got a really good idea based on our coverage. You're not going to get this from KAJO. You're certainly not going to get this from the newspaper. You've got a really good idea because you've seen the video of the commissioners talking about how they're going to spend the ISF, or at least part of it. And part of the things, as part of the when you compare these things, which is good that I've been at these years of meetings, Simon Hare, just as one example, is saying, I see very little need to pay the dues, $30,000, $50,000, $50,000 to continue being in this one group because we're not getting much from it, and I'm not part of any committee. Then, I don't know if they hear this, watch our show or some other show, they put Simon on a committee.
Yes.
He's now chair of the chair committee. And so suddenly Simon's saying, you know, we really need to pay the $50,000. Hey, remember we were getting nothing from them?
Yeah, isn't that funny?
This is one of the ways. Look, if we're really hanging on by our fingertips, I know it's a little embarrassing. We can't go to parties and talk to them about how we're paying our fair share. You just say to them, look, we don't have enough money to do that. You all know that we do. And when you're out there, oh, but Dale, you can't stop them from asking for a forest, you know, and payments and stuff. You know what? Do you really think that if they actually succeeded and the federal government said, we're finally going to kind of live up to our contract for everyone except Josephine County because Josephine County didn't pay their dues to this group? What?
Yes. And speaking of the fiscal cliff, I'll skip ahead a little bit since it's kind of on the topic you're talking about right now.
If we are staffing for the higher level of jail beds and not using that space, we're throwing money away. And it seems as though we lately, in the past few years, don't see an expense that we don't like. For a county that's hanging on the edge of the fiscal cliff, as they always like to say, they never stop hiring people. They never stop giving them raises. They never stop buying new things. And so I'm wondering when they're going to rein some of this back in and paying for more jail beds than we need. That fits right in there.
Did you remember?
Yes, and that's-
Remember the video that we showed you of J.J. Schofield that was like all over me because I was trying to say something about payment for elected officials. Their final conclusion was the elected officials compensation committee is that our elected officials, including the commissioners, are doing such an outstanding job, and I'm not making this up, that they have to have a raise.
Mm. Yes.
So are you getting a raise in your current job, that you're doing an outstanding job? Or is your company giving you a raise? Or if you're on a fixed income like I am, is the federal government recognizing what you're doing in service to the community and saying, no?
I'm still waiting to get bumped up to 10 cents an hour here, you know? I would actually, you know, considering how many of these shows we have done in the last 3 months, you know, that would add up to some real money. I could go out and buy myself a big gallon of Haagen-Dazs or something.
Or a Big Mac, yeah.
Or something, yeah.
Well,
Or,
and we
yeah,
have done this every single day.
Yeah, every single day.
Sorry, never mind.
Yes, here was something. You know how the reported versus non-reported crime thing. You knew it was going to pop its head up. This is a little bit of a long clip, but it has the substance of that in it.
We have trended down just as the United States is trending down. So as we sit here today with this crime crisis, we're 50% less than what we were 18 years ago. If we go out in the county, that's been reduced by 46%. Mm-hmm. And so if you go back 18 years, when we had a fully staffed sheriff's department, a fully staffed police department, we had 50% more crime, roughly, in the entire area.
And you're talking reported crime, correct?
Absolutely reported crime.
Okay. The thought has been brought up that people flat aren't reporting crimes, or they're not responded to because of the lack of personnel. How would you address that?
What sort of data do we have to back that up?
That's kind of
perception that people have. I understand that, but that's a feeling that somebody has. It has nothing to do with reality at all. Mm-hmm. And yet, on that basis, with no data at all, local media continues this mantra that this is a dangerous place to live and that it's ridden with crime and rampant burglaries and assorted crimes are taking place all over the county. It just isn't so.
Well, cursory glance at any internet search, it kind of echoes what you just said, that, yeah, Grants Pass is not the safest place to live. There's a neighborhoodscout.com is one website. I was able to find an article from the New York Times and dated July of 2013, and Sergeant Todd Moran of Grants Pass Police was quoted as saying burglaries were up almost 70% last year, being 2012.
Well, you can compare that to the economy. Now, what is that? Is it 70% of what's come down 50%? What are you talking about there? What's that statistic? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at the economy across the state, and property crimes are economy driven. People are struggling. The economy's dropped. Mm-hmm. So across the state, property crimes are up. No question about that. But not at these ridiculous levels. And when we talk about this, these dark numbers and people aren't reporting it, if you're broken into, you have to make an insurance claim. You need a police report. That's what they always ask for. So I think that becomes a convenient argument to perpetuate this we're unsafe. I mean, I don't see Grants Pass. I would walk downtown Grants Pass day or not fear for my safety.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty long. And the thing is that there's even another clip that goes behind it that really is the companion to this that kind of sews the whole thing up. But you kind of have to take a break right in the middle to say something about it or something.
Okay, all right.
Because otherwise you'd be listening to nothing but that for 5 minutes.
I think it is important to talk about this, and I'd like to try to just go a little bit longer with our show. You guys never do that. But would you like to just talk at length about this one and subject ourselves to the kind of scrutiny we subject others to now, or wait till after you play that clip?
I don't understand. I don't really understand what the
play the clip,
what the motivation behind that is.
Play the clip, and then we're going to talk about the two clips.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Douglas and ourselves, Josephine and Jackson, are all up in property crimes. As in, I just read a recent thing for 13, so is Portland, and that's the economy. Mm-hmm. The money that Jackson hasn't changed their burglary. It hasn't changed ours. It hasn't changed thing as far as bringing it down. If you have more money, it isn't going to wipe out our property crimes. Our property crimes have come down significantly in the last 18 years. They seem to be flattening out. If you look at the stats, we're not going on down in the last 3 years. We're holding.
Well, also he mentions this, a raise of 70%, and he was talking about 2012 numbers. Well, we have the 2012 stats are in this. It doesn't show that at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's all sorts of graphs and charts and statistics all over the place, and some tend to contradict the others. And so
these numbers come directly from these reporting agencies. The Grants Pass Police has to report. This is where we're getting these.
These are their numbers.
These are their numbers. These aren't numbers from somebody else.
No, I mean, and that's part of the problem with this perception. Is all the numbers that have been presented come from the Josephine County Sheriff's Office or the Grants Pass Police Department as reported to the Oregon Uniform Crime Report maintained by OSP. These are governmental reported stats and figures, and that's all we've used. The perception is people are told one thing, then when you see the actual statistics, it doesn't match, and they're having a hard time wrapping their head around that.
Okay, so let's take this argument apart because we deserve some level of scrutiny for this. Okay, thing is that here are people who are saying now, Mike and Dale, and all you guys who are questioning government and questioning the levy. Don't you understand that property crimes are just skyrocketing? I mean, and so what's your possible answer to that, you guys? And one of the answers is, one of the amazing things is, as Marty was saying, well, there's dueling charts and graphs. No, there are not dueling charts and graphs. The other side doesn't have any charts and graphs, and they have none because they said there are no numbers. There's no. So Marty was not telling the truth. There are not dueling charts and graphs. Okay, that's number one. Okay, well, there's many doctors who's no. There's like one doctor and there's 1,000 doctors. Okay, that's first of all. Second thing is,
but 4 out of 5 doctors recommend my favorite chewing gum.
Yeah, right. Or smoking is good for you. That's from the 60s, 50s and 60s. Smoking calms you down. Yeah, right. Thanks, Doc. So look, the other thing is that that all of a sudden, really, these guys are saying, nobody's reporting anything except for this that we're telling you was reported. Now, where the heck did those numbers come from? If you're not reporting anything, then you're not reporting anything. But but now we're using the reports. What reports? Oh, the reports that we have. Oh, you have reports now. Yes, and they're showing a skyrocketing. Now, where'd you get those reports? From the same people who aren't reporting the other things? What? That's impossible.
Yeah, I found it a little bit weird that some Grants Pass police official told the New York Times that property crimes were up 75% from the previous year. Certainly not reflected in the stats that we have. So what stats are they? Where are they getting this stuff? Are they making this stuff up for effect?
Well, I'll tell you what's happening
on here.
It's easy to see what's happening. These local police, sorry, local police, I like you. I like most of them. Maybe not the guy that said that you're breaking the law in the Rotary Club. Maybe not that guy. But
there's a butt in here somewhere.
What's a big one too? Some people like that, not me.
Yes, right. And
the thing is that none of these police are reporting to the state, but they're taking time to report to the New York Times?
Yeah.
What? This doesn't make any sense. We have the numbers. You do? Oh, no, we don't. Well, you just said you did. No, we don't have numbers, but we do have numbers. Now, wait a minute. Just based on that, it does seem a little bit like we're being manipulated just a little. Either you have the numbers and you're reporting them now about crime, about property crime, or you don't have the numbers. Don't keep telling us no one's reporting anything. Why nobody is reporting except for property crime?
And that actually came up about because there's this claim floating around that no numbers have been given by the sheriff's department since 2012.
Yeah.
And apparently, because Joseph just recently talked to Gil, he said everything was reported up to the time when he left office, so through 14, and just they have. It takes apparently a while to get through the bureaucratic filter and actually get published somewhere. We've been expecting.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Here's the big problem. We've mentioned this several times on this show. The pro-levy people are saying the sheriff's not reporting numbers, and the sheriff's department is saying, don't tell people that. Of course we're reporting numbers. No, they never do. Hey, stop saying that. Okay, and so now it falls into the category of they'll say anything to get you to vote for this. The sheriff's department, Gil Gilbert's, yes, we did. These guys are supporters. No, they don't. Hey, wait a minute. How can you be sheriff supporters and then accuse the guys of hiding the numbers, except to the New York Times? And what's this thing about telling the New York Times about our problems? Cheryl Walker said that this show, it's a tragedy if you watch this show, that this show is causing people not to move into Josephine County. Now, wait a minute. Who's telling the New York Times don't come here because we're being we're being overrun by crime? They're climbing up the flagpole and eating the stars and stripes. No, they're not.
Yes.
It's just like ISIS, Mike. It's just like Ebola. They're coming across the border, and we're not going to let them take advantage of the generosity of our community. What the heck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Where are your numbers? Oh, we have them, and we don't, and we don't, and we do. Don't lie to me. And stop taking 10% off the top. You're skimming it.
Right. And
go ahead, Mike.
Yes, somewhere in here we cover that, and I'm not sure exactly which one of these clips it's in, but it's in there somewhere. Anyway, here is more on the stats.
You look at the crime statistics, and everything that we've been presented is coming from the Oregon Uniform Crime Report that's maintained by OSP. And twice a year, Oregon State Police contact the various counties. They do it in October, and they should be doing it now in April, and they want to know, what are your crime stats? Are they up? Are they down? What happened? What changed? And what was your staffing levels? So this premise that, oh, these are old is false. They take a very hard look at these crime stats, and they report it. So OSP, with the Oregon Uniform Crime Report, the FBI pulls those numbers out. If we look at the crime within Josephine County, 80% of it happens within the city limits of Grants Pass, and 20% happens out in the county. If we have 1,000 crimes take place a year, 200 are in the county, 800 are in the city. If we have 10 crimes a year, 8 are in the city, 2 are in the county. It's always going to be like that. That doesn't mean we're unsafe. That's just by density of population. Now, if you go back 18 years, Grants Pass has reduced crime, property crime, 49%.
And, of course, this is redundant to us because we've been hammering this left and right. But this was news to, most people that listen to KAJO, I would imagine.
Yes, probably so.
Yes. Some of these people are going, what?
Right, right, exactly.
Never
also,
even heard it.
The other thing that it does for you, listeners who do care about local politics and might like to know what's going on with your county commissioners and with this levy and everything, is when your neighbor says, I don't know much about this. Now you've heard this a couple of times, and you can say, well, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and right. They'll say, da-da-da. Well, you're not even speaking English. But, you should use real words.
Right, yes, you should. You should actually use real words because you'll have issues otherwise. No, it's funny because I was cutting this, and, sometimes I wear headphones when I'm doing it, sometimes I don't. Well, I wasn't wearing them, and my wife was walking by, and she says, I am going to have all of these stats memorized by the time this whole thing's over.
Oh, look, here's the other thing. I just had this scathingly brilliant idea. If where angels go, trouble follows.
Mm.
And that is, okay, so the next time, and you know they're already planning the next one. Oh, you sure they are? So the next time, what it should be is that whatever the amount is, 80% must be paid by city residents, and 20% would be paid by the county residents.
Yes, oh, yeah.
Would that be fair? Well, what's fair about the city insisting that the county pay for that? Oh,
yeah,
we need jail beds. Yeah, you do. You do, but we don't.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I made that point here today. It's in the later clip,
You
but
did?
it's
Wow.
yes, I did. But the thing is that it's you know, not only are they already planning the next levy, but even if this levy passes, they're still planning the next levy, because what they have to do 3 or 4 years down the road into this levy is they have to start saying it just is not enough, and it's, you know, so they can set up the next one. You can smell it coming, like you know, listen, I moved here from an area where, you know, we quite often voted for everything. Oh, clean water. Oh, yes, we want clean water. And who was threatening to dirty the water? No one knew, but we all knew that we wanted clean water because, you know, you can't give your child a glass of dirty water.
Oh, yes, children. Think of the children. This is what the next one's going to be about. It was predicted here first from BadCounty.com, from Mike and Dale, Dale and Mike, Dale and Dale, Mike and Mike. I'm going to predict that the next levy is going to lead with the children. Oh,
yeah,
you have to think about the children. Kittens, sunshine, children. It's all, we all deserve that. Stop being selfish, everybody.
Etc. So anyway, okay. We went into some detail about jail beds, and I'll tell you, people have some misunderstandings about the jail beds. They think we have to have the jail beds to, you know, lock up these fictitious criminals that are driving the crime rate through the roof. So there's a little bit of debunking of the whole jail bed situation.
Just before you do that, let's remind our audience we have shown you the video, not our video. The video of the police chief, the Grants Pass police chief. It was about jail beds. And he said, sorry for those of you who've heard this ad nauseum, he said, once we got the new jail beds for the city, we thought we were running, I'm paraphrasing, we thought we were running the wheels off our cars and doing more arrests than ever. That was their perception. And then they went back and they looked at their own stats and their own statistics. Oh, we never report anything, but we have statistics. And the police chief's not saying they never report anything. The levy supporters are saying they never report anything. So they went back and they looked. They were wrong. They weren't running the wheels off their cars. They weren't arresting more. They were arresting less than before, even though they had the jail beds. We're going to fill up those jail beds. Well, as Sheriff says, unfortunately, I think everyone needs to be put in jail. We know what he means, okay? Yes. But they weren't doing that. They were caught in their own perception. Their perception was wrong. I was one of those people who thought, yeah, crime probably is increasing. If you're going to say that it's increasing and you want real money, you better show us real statistics. Well, we can't show you real statistics, then we're going to give you perceived money.
That's right. Yes, I like that idea. We ought to print some of that up and hand it out to people. So anyway, here's more about jail beds.
If you look at Benton County, their population is 87,000 people. They have 69 jail beds. If you go to Josephine County, the ask in this levy is for 160 jail beds for a population of 83,000. We are 4,000 less than Benton County. Why do we need 160 beds? If we go to crime statistics, and if you, right now, Josephine County is the safest county in Southwest Oregon. If you were to pull the city of Grants Pass out, we become the safest county in the entire state of Oregon.
For property crime.
For property crime. So when you start looking at jail beds, at similar sized counties, we have double the amount of jail beds. Going to Lane County, on that 55 cents per thousand ask, that was specifically to fund juvenile justice and the jail. 5 cents to juvenile justice, the 50 cents to the jail, and they broke it down to the penny as to what function it was going to support within the jail. They had 3 jails, 2 were shuttered. This opened up a jail, and it gave them 1 jail bed per 1,000. So they're staffed right now at 354 jail beds. If you look across the state of Oregon, that seems to be pretty much the norm. So taking that into account, we really only need 1 jail bed per 1,000, so we need 85 jail beds. Right now, it's been capped at 90 jail beds. So no one's told us why we need. If we look at the crime and the statistics showing that we're basically 49% less than we were 18 years ago, crime has very much decreased. Why are we asking for so many jail beds? Why are the taxpayers having to maintain that? 85 jail beds, I believe, is what we should have. It's sustainable and should be supported.
Okay.
So, I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, so you wonder if they're planning on this higher level of jail beds, and then, 2 or 3 months into the thing, they can say, hey, we don't need that many. Then they've got this huge chunk of money that would normally be funding those extra jail beds that they can then use for whatever they want to.
All right, now, Mike, you tell me when we're done here, okay? I'm going to let you call the shots. Here's something that I see as a pattern. On the last levy, the commissioners who played a bigger overt role, they're still there, but they're pretending like they're not, okay? They said, let's keep all these numbers, let's keep the spending of the money purposely vague. This was something where they refused to tell us the specifics. They weren't going to tell us the numbers of where the money was going to go. Do you see a pattern here? This time, this outside group, we don't have numbers because we can't possibly, nobody's keeping the numbers, well, except for some numbers, and then we do and we don't, we do and we don't, but we can't share the number. You know what? I'm not going to vote for something where you're being purposely vague or where you're saying we have no numbers and we're not going to give you any numbers. No, you don't get real money unless you give us real numbers. Now, you levy supporters, if you want to get together a little fund, okay, you can call it the Brady Adams Memorial Fund. And that's a nice tribute to him. And you can say, listen, we're going to put together a little fund to get one worker that's a volunteer or several workers, volunteers, and one full-time person to do nothing but keep numbers. And next time we come back to you, voters, we will tell you where the money is going. That's a requirement. And we'll tell you why we need it because we'll have the numbers. Before you do that, I'm not going to give you a dime.
Well, and you know what? This is a very interesting point that you're making. And along those same lines, Sandy suggested this to us this morning. She said, there's nothing stopping people from, line iteming some stuff in a check to the county and say, hey, listen, I want this to go for the jail. I want this to go for. You can do that. You can give money to the county if you'd like to. You can. As a matter of fact, you know what we ought to do just to show what the will is of people to donate to this. Let's set up a GoFundMe account that goes to fund the sheriff's office, and see how many people donate to it. And put it totally in their control. Here you go. Here's a GoFundMe account. Let's all pitch in and help out the sheriff.
Well,
I'd be interested to see how that goes.
Is anybody confused about why most of the support for this idea of taxing everybody in the county comes from city residents? They have 80% of the crime. Of course they want you out in the county to chip in to help protect them and their 80% of the crime. And if you really want to do this, city people, go ahead.
And that's perfect. That's perfect that you mentioned that, because let's go out on this clip and then we'll save some for another time. Okay? Here we go.
You know, there's a lot of comparison of city versus county, and this is really we're all in this together. There is no division. We have county funds jail, county funds prosecution, county funds juvenile justice, and the shortfall, everybody agrees, the money is not there that used to be there.
Everybody agrees.
So with the levy here, as I understand it, it was brought forth as a stopgap measure until a longer-term, more permanent solution can be found, and it was brought up in the form of a property tax. We all agree that more funding is needed for the sheriff's department. Is there an alternative? Do you guys have an alternative?
Well, here, let me just address your. We're all in this together, but the people in the county are paying 58% of the entire tax for the county, and yet they only experience 20% of the crime. I understand that it's very popular to, spread the wealth around and say that we all need to share the burden of it. But, when we go to purchase a home, we look at the tax we're going to be paying in that area, and that's part of the consideration of whether or not to buy. So is whether or not a lot of crime exists. My neighborhood is very safe. And I feel like I am probably paying more, certainly, than what I'm getting in terms of protection. I don't expect a sheriff to show up for probably half hour, 45 minutes at my place.
So, if you want to, well, I mean, you could vote for the levy and pay and help subsidize the criminal retention for Grants Pass, or you could, if you feel like it, send the county a check. I mean, if you feel like paying your fair share or more than your fair share, that would be very admirable. Feel free to do that.
Since 80% of the city of the crimes happen in the city, when this thing fails, we expect all of you supporters in the city to go down, and you should be 80% of the checks that come in to hire somebody to keep this the proper statistics. Then when you come back to us with statistics, and you're not going to do any of these things, when you come back to us with the facts and the figures, and not just stories about children and old ladies that, oh, isn't that terrible? When you come back with the real facts, then we'll consider giving you real money.